Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Happy Thursday. I am so excited to be here with you all this evening on behalf of Cross Culture 365 Ministries and Community Social Justice Atlanta. My name is Nina Smith Bankhead, and I would like to welcome you all to our conversation tonight entitled Health Matters Coping with Life Changing Health Diagnoses or Health Issues. Again, I'm very excited to be here. We have some phenomenal guests this evening. But before we get started, I want to just encourage you all to please make sure you like this post. Please share it because we're going to have some really great information shared with you all this evening. So, again, please make sure you like, you share, you post, you ask questions. We have three amazing practitioners and people who have done great work in the community, but people who are also going to share some of their personal experiences with us as they've coped with a number of different health issues and actually overcame them. So again, on behalf of Cross Culture 365 Ministries located in Jonesboro, Georgia, and Community Social Justice Atlanta, again, we just want to welcome you. And so tonight's conversation is really important. Since COVID, many people have learned or had to learn how to cope with a number of different health issues. Just because so many things have happened around COVID, people have found out all kinds of information about their health. And as most of us know, most of us who have had to cope with a life altering health diagnosis, it takes a bit to actually get used to that and figure out what your new normal or what you need to do to cope with that, what resources are out there, how to make sure that you're going to continue to live a high quality of life. And so, again, thank you all for joining us. Like, share, repost, but get ready to ask some great questions. So, without further ado, I want to go ahead and bring in our first speaker, Dr. Leomi Bliss. And she's going to give us a quick introduction and tell us a little bit about who she is and what she does and why this topic is important for her. So, Dr. Bliss, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, my good friend Nina, for inviting me here. And thank you so much, Pastor Smith and the Cross Culture 365 family. This is an exciting time to talk about this subject because loneliness is epidemic proportions right now. And it has to be addressed along with these major health diagnoses. So I'm so glad to be a part of the conversation because we've got to get that stigma off of Christians so that they know they can go for help. So I am a psychiatric rehabilitation practitioner. I am a therapist and I am a minister. And I own a practice, the Bliss Center, and I teach Parakletos counseling certification training. So with what I do, I see a lot. And so I thank God again that we have this opportunity to talk to our community, our friends, and let them know, listen, come on in, as they say, come on in the house so that you can be well, because that's what God wants us to be. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for that introduction. Next, we're going to call up our next speaker, Thomas Walters. Thomas, do you want to quickly give us a introduction to who you are and what you do?
Well, good evening, everyone. As Nina said, I am Thomas Walters, and I met Nina several years ago. What we have in common is we both have been diagnosed with lupus, and I have been living with lupus since 2006, which is about 17 years ago. And when I first was diagnosed, I reached out to try to see where I can get support because I didn't have any information from it about lupus, and was connected with the lupus support group. And from that point, I got connected with Nina. So I'm glad to be here this evening.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Thomas. And we're definitely going to talk more about the support group and how that was helpful in managing and coping with your diagnosis. So thank you so much for that introduction. And next, I want to bring up Miss Eva Parks. Eva, Could you share a little bit with us about who you are and what you do?
Hey, absolutely. Good evening, everyone. My name is Eva Parks. I am a wife. I'm a mother. I currently lead an operations team for a state charter school right here in DeKalb County. And most of all, I'm here tonight because I'm a lupus warrior. So excited to be here with you guys and ready to talk.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you all again so much. And again, I want to just encourage folks to join in. If you're watching and you have friends that may be able to benefit, please make sure you share this webinar with your friends, or send them a quick message, tell them to jump online. We're on both the Community Social Justice Atlanta page as well as the Cross Culture 365 Ministries page. So let's go ahead and jump into the questions, because there's a lot that we want to get to this evening. So the first question, I want to pose the first question to you, Thomas. You started out by talking about being diagnosed with lupus. So can you tell us a little bit about what was that experience like? What was happening at the time that you found out about your lupus diagnosis?
Okay. Well, prior to my diagnosis, I was having problems with my back, and I had gone to several chiropractors and doctors trying to figure out what was going on, and I was trying to avoid back surgery, but it ended up that I had to have back surgery, and this was in October of 2006. Well, of course, whenever you have surgery, they do a comprehensive blood test to make sure everything is fine. So I passed that okay, and was able to have this surgery. And as I was healing and going, back and forth to the doctor, my primary care kind of noticed something going on with me, and referred me to get some lab work done. So this was in December. So when I got the lab work, I received a call to say, Mr. Walters, I need you to come back. I think we made an error because your platelets are real low. So I want you to, come back so we can do blood work again. Then my doctor called back and says, I need you to go to the hematology. So I was at Southern Regional Hospital and went across the street to the hematologist. And again, my platelets had gone down to 2.
Wow.
So, and when a lot of people who are diagnosed with lupus who that has attacked their blood in some kind of way, generally have problems with their platelets. Of course, none of this I knew. So when they did tests there at the hematology, the doctor says, Mr. Walters, I want you to go to the emergency room right now. So my mind, this is down the holiday. I'm very active in a lot of different activities, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, I don't have time to go to the hospital, because I felt, generally I was feeling okay,
Right.
but he said we may have to do a bone marrow extraction, from you. So went to the hospital. They kept me. I was there for like 2.5 weeks. So that kind of started that lupus journey, and from that point on, various things have happened over the years.
Wow. Wow. And I can only imagine how some of the emotions that you were feeling, or that you were going through, hearing that information, especially when you weren't expecting
Right.
to hear that information. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can only imagine. Eva, talk a little bit about your experience when you were diagnosed,
Oh,
or what
wow.
was going on leading up to your diagnosis, I should say.
Similar to Thomas, I didn't set out to be diagnosed with it. There were just so many different
Right.
things that were happening that just seemed to come out of nowhere. There was a stroke at the age of 29. There were just these periods of having anaphylactic episodes to things that I had no idea I was allergic to, and they just couldn't figure it out. And the interesting thing about my journey is that you talked about COVID being the catalyst for many people trying to figure out what's going on with them. And it actually wasn't until after I actually had COVID that things weren't just bouncing back as quickly as they should. There were several health issues I had dealt with and kind of coped with and kind of swept under the rug. But it wasn't until somebody mentioned, okay, maybe it's long COVID, maybe that's what's happening with you, that I finally got serious about it and went back to my doctor and had some blood work done. And that blood work caused other blood work to be requested. And from there, I was diagnosed with lupus. So while my diagnosis only took a few months from all the blood work, the journey has taken almost the past 20 years to kind of connect.
Wow.
So I totally understand.
Wow. Yeah. Dr. Bliss, just curious.
Mhm.
Both of them had experiences where they just sort of came out of nowhere. Thomas was looking at one procedure and something totally different sort of ended up the
Mhm.
result of his visits. And Eva talked about just this cycle of strange happenings. Is that something, how do people deal with these or what is this something common that you've seen, especially in your practice when people are trying to deal with new diagnoses? Do you
You
see a
know,
lot of things kind of coming out of nowhere or seemingly coming out of nowhere with people that you talk to?
absolutely, Nina. We counsel from our scars. And so for me, I was diagnosed with disseminated intravascular coagulation. It's called DIC. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a terrible blood disorder without a cure.
Wow.
So I'm here by the grace of God. So daily, I live with it. I can't even give blood because they don't know why I'm alive. So the thing that's frightening about these types of diagnoses and what you've said is how it is so quick and so devastating. And
Yeah.
it can really mess with your head because you walk around sometimes on eggshells, wondering, is this the day, that I'm
Right.
going to go under an attack? And so what
Right.
I have learned to do is, of course, one day at a time, because whether you have a chronic illness or not one of us is promised tomorrow. And so, what
Mm-hmm.
I advise people to do, of course, is do all you can do, which is what I did, all you can do to be better, but then live your life every single day of it. And so that when tomorrow comes, you just do it again. And that's what leads to good mental health and gets that person from sinking
Yeah.
down low into depression.
I wanted to come back to you, Dr. Bliss. A couple of another thing that I heard, um, I can't remember if it was Eve or Thomas. One of the things we deal with lupus often is some short term loss of memory. But either Eva or Thomas, one of them said something about sweeping things under the rug, sort of letting letting things sort of just pan out, not really investigating. And so, just curious about what is the impact of sweeping things under the rug? Can you talk a little bit about what obviously that's not the best practice, but can you talk a little bit about that? The impact of just sort of letting things go and not addressing issues as they arise?
Mhm. Well, there's such a stigma attached to getting good emotional health or mental health care in the Black community and even in the Christian community. And those people who are very successful and they got everything together, they don't want anybody to know that there's a flaw. Sometimes they don't even want to slow down. And so what we have to
Mm-hmm.
do is what happens when you sweep things under the rug, it doesn't like disappear.
Mm-hmm.
It's dirt under the rug, and eventually enough of it is going to be under there that it's going to blow out anyway. And so the thing to do is to address it and feel very, very comfortable about asking for help. We are human beings. We need each other and we need help. So we have
Yeah.
to get over that stigma. And I think especially strong Black folks, we've been through so much. We kept it together so long. We just can't let anybody know that there's a problem. But I
Mm-hmm.
always tell people, you can break your arm and we'll get that taken care of. You could get a fever, you get that taken care of. But when there's something going on with your brain or in your mind, people
Right.
just, act like it's not a problem, but your brain is an organ. It can get injured
Mm-hmm.
and we get
Right.
sick. And so we have to get help.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Thomas, I wanted to come back to you really quickly. So you talked about going in for one thing and then getting this diagnosis, ending up in a hospital for a couple of weeks. What did you do to emotionally and mentally cope with all that was happening to you physically? what strategies did you use, or what things did you do to help you get through?
Well, I have to say the primary thing is just my faith. You know,
Mhm.
and I just had to ask God to help me through this, because when you hear that you have been diagnosed with a disease or illness that is incurable,
Mhm.
you don't know, if how that's going to affect your life for the future. And
Right.
when you head of the household, and you have responsibilities, you're feeling like, well, I can't be sick because I got all these things I have to handle. But at the same time, you have the reality of it is that you have to face what's going on. And as Dr. Bliss said, you take it one day at a time.
Mhm.
And I think through just prayer, meditation, and I was pretty open about my condition, and
Mhm.
not mind sharing it. And because the thing about it is that when you sweep things like you mentioned before under the rug, you're only hurting yourself in the long run, because
Mhm.
if you ignore the things going on in your body, it could be getting worse. And
Yeah.
perhaps by the time the doctor, diagnose the next step, it may be too late, for you.
Mhm.
So the things that I've been faced with, health wise, I have been able to overcome because of early detection.
Yeah.
Um, and then, like I said, and also just, um, asking God to, carry me through this. And
Yeah.
I do music, in terms of relaxation, you know, it's particularly spiritual music that give you encouragement.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Eva, I happen to know that you have young people. And so how do you cope? I know a little bit about lupus, and I know all of the different things that happen when people are living with lupus. And so how do you cope? What are some of your coping strategies, and how does that impact you taking care of your children?
Oh, so I'm just gonna keep it real with everyone. Sometimes it's rough. It is rough. It
Hmm.
is hard. It is tough. And some days I simply don't have it. But
Hmm.
the thing that I have learned to do was to kind of take off my cape and ask for help.
Yeah.
To let my family members and friends know, like, some days, guys, I have it, and other days, like today, I'm just tired. I can't get out of the bed. I can't even lift my hands on my head. And so, in learning to cope with it, one of the things that helped me cope with it was to be transparent with my kids. Listen, mommy
Hmm.
has lupus. This is what it means. This is what it doesn't mean. And so it's not a situation where I don't want to play, is that I simply can't. And so involving my kids, as young as they are, involving my family members and friends has been a great coping mechanism, because I don't have to be the strong Black woman. I don't have to be the robot as though I thought I was and that I tried to be for so
Hmm.
long. So that's been my biggest thing, is to involve my family members and friends and to ask for help.
Exactly. And asking for help for so many people is really difficult. Um, Dr. Bliss, when we talk about asking for help, I keep coming to you as in your therapist hat. Why is it so difficult for us to ask for help? What is it about just saying, "Hey, I can't today," or "I need someone to come over and help do this thing"? What is it about asking for help that we struggle with?
One of the first things I thought about was just really pride, where again, we don't want people to see that maybe there's a weakness. The
Mhm.
important thing I think for people to know is that mental health care is health care.
Mhm.
And just like, again, like we go to the dentist, we've got to put it into that kind of a category. But people are afraid that they're going to be labeled, by the way.
Yeah.
And now everybody's going to be talking about them. You've got a major depression, or you've got some sort of serious mental illness, and so people don't want to be around you. But you know what? That's no reason to not seek the help that you need
Mhm.
from. And there's so many people you can get the help from. Like Thomas said, you can meditate. And like Ms. Park said, you can just get some rest. Tell people, when you speak to your children and say, Mom needs to just lay down for a minute, we're actually teaching them. We're showing them how to take care of ourselves.
Mhm.
But that's basically it. No one wants to appear weak in any kind of way. And then this is a weakness you can't see. And so that makes it even more difficult.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Really quickly to the audience, again, I just wanted to thank you for being here. I see some of the comments and the affirmations popping up in agreement with our speakers. And so thank you all for tuning in. I just wanted to remind you again that if you know people that may be able to benefit from this conversation or people who may want to ask questions, please make sure you share, like, repost this on your pages so we can share the information that we have, because I think somebody's going to get set free in this conversation. Somebody's going to learn a strategy or hear something that might help them to be able to move forward and come out of the closet hiding. Whether it's a mental health issue, a physical health issue, someone can be set free in this conversation. So make sure you share, like, and all of that. So thank you so much. Thomas, I'm going to come back to you because as you mentioned, we are good friends. And so we have worked together for a number of years. And I know that you've created a number of coping strategies to deal with lupus. You've built this network around you to help deal with lupus. But I understand that you had another health issue that popped up as you were dealing with the lupus. Do you want to share a little bit, or could you share a little bit about that, and how did this next diagnosis sort of impact you?
Sure. Well, last year I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And once again, with the news of that, it's like, okay, it's something else that I'm going to have to cope with. It's interesting. I just had a conversation with a friend who was also battling cancer. I never really had any fear about dying, but I did prepare, because pancreatic cancer, like many, others, is very serious. And there are many those who, who don't. So once again, the way that I cope when I get these things is that what Dr. Bliss says, I just take it day by day. I continue my life as normal. It's there's certain things that I can do as relates to my behavior to keep me healthy, but at the same time, there are things out of my control. So it's no sense of me stressing myself out, worrying about what I can't control. And do the things that I know that I should do, to keep healthy. So it was a little devastating, but I was able to, kind of deal with it. And I am happy to say that I am cancer free.
Amen.
1 year, right now. And our early detection had a lot to do with, the fact of me.
Exactly. Awesome. Thomas, thank you so much for sharing that. You said you prepared. You didn't plan to die, but you prepared. What does that mean? What does that mean? That's deep. What does that mean?
Well, the thing about it is that when you are diagnosed with an illness that's incurable, and there's the possibility that you may not live from it, then you have to reflect, okay, well, what if? So the what if was the prepared. So I did my will. I made arrangements at a funeral home. I did everything in writing, make sure my insurance and everything was to date, because I did not want that to be a burden for my family to try to figure out. I did obituary. I had a conference with my pastor. So again, is that, and I said, whether this happens next month or another 20, 30 years, it's already done, and I won't, have that, thing to
Thomas, that is so amazing. And I think, those are some of the things that you did to prepare in this situation, we all should do regardless of a health diagnosis, right? We all should have a will and a power of attorney and know what our final arrangements need to look like. Many of us have dealt with losses recently and know how difficult it is to try to pull things together in the last minute. So thank you, Thomas. That was yet another educational nugget that we need to take care of our business regardless of our health status. So thank you so much for sharing that. Dr. Bliss, so when people are dealing with new diagnoses, especially when it comes to health related diagnoses, what emotions should they expect to have? I mean, what are some of the things we see? But what's normal? We call this the new normal. What's normal? A normal reaction?
Anger,
Hmm.
disbelief. But someone who's been diagnosed with a chronic medical illness is more prone to mental illness or stress or anxiety, being nervous, being concerned and angry, because those chemicals in your body, your serotonin, your dopamine, it's a fight going on. So all of it is heading toward that issue. And a lot of times, this part of us, our brain, is starting to get neglected. So having a chronic diagnosis could actually lead to a mental health issue. So when people come in, a lot of times they're thinking, have I done something wrong, or where did this come from? It's all connected together. Your body is in a fight. It's releasing histamine and dopamine, all types of things to help you fight. And your mind is like trying to get in there too. So just remember that there will be anger. There will be guilt, and there will
Yes.
be fear. The number
Hmm.
one spiritual health problem is fear, and the number one mental health problem is loneliness. And oftentimes, loneliness is the greatest problem because people are alone in that diagnosis.
Yeah, not feeling like anyone else can understand. Nobody else
Exactly.
understands what I'm going through. I'm doing this by myself, as
Hmm.
Eva talked about, opening yourself up to ask for help. That's great. Thank you for that.
Hmm. You're welcome.
So, Miss Eva,
Mhm.
so what were your conversations with God like when you started having all of these? Were you ever angry with God? What conversations were you having?
Ooh, okay. So if I think back to the different emotions, I went through probably three different I guess stages. So there was the aha, okay, all the stuff makes sense. And then once I started really educating myself, I went through the aha. And then at the very end it was okay. Okay. So for me, it was never about blaming God, because at that point, how could I blame the one who was going to help see me through it? And so at that point, it wasn't a matter of blaming him. It was a matter of looking to him more, because
Mm,
as Dr. Bliss was saying, a lot of times you feel alone. You know, nobody else in my family had ever talked about having lupus. They didn't have
yeah.
strokes that early. They didn't have all these things going on. So when you don't have another person to reach out to, the only person I had to go to was God. So I didn't blame
Hmm.
him, but there were times when I'm going like, okay, what are we doing now? What, okay, God, what's up? What are we doing? But never a blame, but more so like, you are going to have to help me get through this, because
Hmm.
I can't do it by myself.
I know that's right. Exactly. Exactly. Um, Another quick question for you. So currently, first of all, we probably should have started with this, but how are you doing now? How are you feeling?
How am I
What
feeling?
strategies have you sort of put in place to make sure you're okay, you're good?
Okay, so the first thing is being completely open and transparent with myself. Like, again, take my cape off. How am I really feeling? So that means from the time I get up in the morning, just take a few moments to ground myself and really listen to my body. Because a lot of times we kind of get up and we're ready to go, 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 but not really realizing, like, hey, your knees are hurting today. Your head is
Hmm.
hurting today. Your body is sore today. So you really need to slow yourself down a little bit, sit down somewhere, as the
Hmm.
seasoned saints say, and just sit down. Um, and so to answer your question, I'm doing okay. Could I be doing
Hmm.
better? Absolutely, but I'm doing okay.
Awesome. Awesome. Thomas, how are you doing? What is you have so many things kind of happening. Are you still having treatments for, or is there anything that you still need to do related to the cancer? How did that impact your treatment for lupus? What's happening with all of your treatment?
Well, to be honest with you, I get really frustrated at times because it seems like when one thing is kind of fixed or I'm okay, then something else comes, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, is there ever going to be a time that I can just not have to deal with anything? Again, I'm so thankful to God for seeing me through the cancer and healing me for that. But now the lupus is acting up again. So, it's like I'm constantly going to doctors for one thing after the other. And Diva said, sometimes you can't hardly get out the bed, and I'm thinking I got all these things I want to do or could do or should do, but don't feel like doing, so it can cause, some frustration. But again, if I didn't have a network of friends and family and supporters that I can sometimes share with, of course, along with, talking with God, I don't know, it would probably, my mental health would be, worse. But, I try to stay positive, as much as possible, but it can get frustrating, at times.
Yeah.
All of this.
Yeah. Trying to balance all of the different emotions, the medications, the treatments, all the different appointments and things like that. We've been talking a lot about lupus. We talked a little bit about prostate cancer. Oh, I'm sorry, pancreatic cancer. Thomas and Eva, we'll start with Thomas. Can you tell us a little bit about lupus? What is lupus? We talk about it a lot, or we're starting to hear about it more. We've talked about it a lot this evening, but can you just educate our watchers a little bit about what is lupus?
Sure. Lupus is an autoimmune disease in which the body attacks itself. It can attack any organ in your body, or it can attack your skin. There's the discoid lupus that basically affects your skin, and you get sores and breakouts from it. There is the it's called SLE acronym, which is the more systematic lupus that can affect your joints and other parts of your body. And as a result of that, you get the butterfly rash, which is around your nose area, which when you see symbols of lupus, is generally the butterfly, and that's what they're referring to. And so that's generally the one of the first signs that people get. And then when they go to the doctor and they see that and start explaining, the symptoms like fatigueness and tiredness and other things, then you generally refer to a rheumatologist who gives you who orders an ANA test. And this test is what really determines if there's active lupus in your body. So basically from that point, you kind of begin to get whatever necessary treatments there are, depending on what's going on with you. Now, if it attacks your organs, then you have to go to whatever specialists deal with that particular organ in order to get treatment.
Okay. Eva, thank you, Thomas. Eva, you talked about some of the different things. I probably know this answer, but I'm gonna ask anyway. Just run off a list of the different doctors that you have to see periodically to help maintain, just to give our audience a sense of the scope of a health condition like lupus and the number of appointments and things you have to sort of maintain.
Absolutely. So I have my general practitioner. Like most people, you go to them once a year, or if something, strange pops up, that's your run of the mill. So I have my general practitioner. I have my rheumatologist. She's the person that is basically in care and in charge of all things lupus. So right now she is taking care of me in terms of my lupus. And I also have a overlap with another autoimmune disease, which is rheumatoid arthritis. So she's taking care of those. I also see the pulmonologist, because at times it can affect my lungs and my breathing, and just to make sure that is under control. I see the dentist. Most people don't think about that, but just to make sure that your oral health is taken care of in terms of your body as well. I also see my therapist because, as Dr. Bliss says, mental health is health as well. And so for right now, we are just making sure that everything kind of works with one another. They all know one another. We work in conjunction just to make sure I'm alive and kicking. And that's my thing.
Exactly. That's awesome. And I hear you talking about that team approach and keeping all of your doctors together. So often when people are dealing with chronic health issues, we talk about this new normal. this adjustment that you have to make. So what does this concept of new normal look like for you, or what does it mean to you? Is this your new normal, having multiple appointments, having, you know, the different things you're managing? What is that? Would you consider this your new normal?
I think I would
Eva,
consider
yeah.
it my new normal. Part of it was, so yesterday I celebrated my birthday, and
Okay.
knowing that this is my new normal, I wanted to turn up and go out and do all the things. However, I know what those few hours would do for me on the following day, and so the new norm is go and have a little bit of fun, but then recognize what your limitations are and be okay with that. So it's not about not living. It's not about making your new normal just sitting in the house and going, woe is me. But as Thomas said, like, you still live life to the fullest. Like, it may not be the next day that you're going to live to see it. And so you still got to live, but just do it within your limits. That's it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. And happy birthday. Happy belated birthday. No problem. Thomas, what does your new normal look like? How do you feel about your new normal?
Well, it's not the new normal that I would like for it to be, but
Hmm.
it's the normal. This was given to me, and it's what I have to deal with. But my normal is pretty much kind of being consistent with seeing my doctors, and particularly when something is going, when I'm feeling something's out of the norm. I
Hmm.
call and tell my primary care and let him kind of navigate what doctors I need to see. So that's kind of
Hmm.
pretty much have been what I've dealt with. But if that's what is going to help me to continue to live a reasonably healthy life, then that's become the norm, for me.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Um, so all of you, and I'm going to go to you, Dr. Bliss. There are obviously resources out there that can assist people when they have a new diagnosis, if they're struggling to cope and address those issues. What resources would you encourage people? And I'm actually going to ask this question to each of you, but what resources or things in the community have been most helpful to you to help? And where do you send people, Dr. Bliss, when people are really in need of some support around coping?
All right. With that first diagnosis, it can be so overwhelming. And so if someone has it and feels that way, they can call 988, which is a crisis hotline and suicide hotline. But there's also a number that you can text from anywhere in the United States, 741-741, and that will get you to a counselor also. And people need to know that. The other thing I think that people need to know is that mental health care has changed. So get with a therapist who can work with you personally for your needs. We all know about going to a therapist once a week or every 2 weeks, but now there are therapists who are on call,
Hmm.
who know you, and you can pick up that phone any day, time of day or night, and say, hey, I'm in a crisis. I'm overwhelmed by all of this. And also the National Institute of Mental Health is a great resource. As long as we know and accept the fact that a part of the diagnosis, it comes with maybe an issue with mental health. It's normal. It's not personal. It's not you, but it has to be addressed, because if not, it will keep getting worse and worse. And then maybe even after you're well or you feeling so much better, you may still be depressed or
Yeah.
anxious if you don't get it looked after.
Awesome. Thank you for those. Thank you for those. Thomas, where would you encourage people who are dealing with either a cancer diagnosis or a lupus diagnosis? What are some resources that you would encourage people to look into or to connect with?
Okay. Well, the number one that I would recommend, because it's what I did, is to try to become a part of a support group. Now, I realize that that may not be for everyone because some
Mhm.
people don't necessarily like, sharing in that environment. But if you are, that has been a valuable resource. And those persons who I have met uh, as a result of the support group have really appreciated having that, as a way of being able to share with others who share the same kind of experiences they have. So that's whether it's a lupus support group, cancer support group, or whatever, the different health disparities that you may have. Um,
Mhm.
and also, um, if you have a good friend, or somebody that you can really trust, and or relative or someone, I think that sometimes just help you get through certain things from day
Yeah,
to day. So
exactly.
you wouldn't necessarily consider that as a resource, or take it for granted that, okay, it's a person, but really I think that helps a whole lot. But
Mhm.
and then with the Lupus Foundation uh, of America, there's a website that have a wealth of information, and likewise a
Mhm.
Georgia chapter. So for those who are living with lupus or newly diagnosed, you can get a lot of information from that.
Yeah, I think that website is lupusga.org.
Yes.
lupusga.org to the Lupus Foundation directly. Thank you for that, Thomas. Miss Eva, what resources have been really helpful and supportive for you?
Oh, absolutely. So, the same thing that Dr. Bliss was advocating for if you're in a crisis, going with your practitioner or therapist, same thing Thomas said, the Lupus Foundation. But for me, once I got those things out of the way, it was the business part of it that was most overwhelming for me. Like, how
Mm.
am I going to pay, this $8,000 a
Thank
month
you.
copay for this medication? And so one of the
Mhm.
things I had to look into that was kind of out of the norm, we go to our doctors and they help us out. But if you are in tune with your health insurance provider, whoever you're with, a lot of the times they have resources for on-call nurses for your ongoing chronic care. Well, they will have someone assigned to you that will give you phone calls, will check up on you every month, will give you resources and articles and tips for staying healthy. The other thing
Mhm.
is those little pamphlets that are in your doctor's office. A lot of the times, if you reach out to the manufacturer, they can give you cards to help you pay for your medication. They can give you
Mhm.
links to foundations that will help you pay for that as well. So if you're like
Yeah.
me and it's the business part that got to you, like, okay, how am I going to do any of this? Look to your health insurance provider because that's what they're there for. Although it's not going to be put out there for you to see, read the fine
Yeah.
print because a lot of the times they have things that are there for you and will only give it to the ones who are actively seeking it.
Eva, that is so important. I'm so glad you
Mhm.
brought that up because a lot of times we just use our insurance but don't realize all of the benefits that may be available and accessible to us through our insurance. I'll just share a quick story. I actually didn't realize that my insurance plan had a case manager attached, and they send me text messages periodically just to check in. So, thank you for bringing that up because that's a really good resource. So,
Nina, can I add
yeah,
another one? Is
yep.
all the medicines is provided by a pharmaceutical company. And
Hmm.
a lot of the pharmaceutical companies have programs that they can give medicine at
Mhm.
either reduced rate or free.
Yep.
So if you're
Yeah.
able to identify, where the medicine is made, you can go to that particular company and
Yeah.
or website to find out the procedures of getting your medicine free.
And Thomas, I wanted to add, or if you're having trouble affording your medication, tell your doctor. Sometimes your doctors have samples of many of your medications in the office, and they'll give you those samples to help you get over a period where you may have some financial challenges. So I think the moral of the story that I'm hearing from all of you across this conversation is share, communicate, talk, don't hide, because the
Mhm.
resources, the support, all of the things that you can benefit from come with sharing your story, come with asking someone for help, come with doing a little bit of research, but just talking to people, letting them know the challenges you're having, and they may have something to offer. So, this is all good stuff. I hope you all have been sharing this with people, audience. I really hope you've been sharing. I really hope you've been liking. If you have any questions, please make sure you put them in the chat or put them in the comments because we'll make sure we get answers to you all. So I think we have maybe 10 minutes remaining. And so what I wanted to do is give each of you an opportunity. If you had just a final word of encouragement or a final tip, something that you want to share, I'm going to give each of you about a minute or two. but just share with our audience a word of wisdom or an important takeaway. You have about 2 minutes, so share an important takeaway that you would like to leave our audience with. And so I'm going to start with you, Eva. What would you like our audience to know about dealing with these chronic or kind of surprise health issues, and how health issues and how you've coped and all of that? What would you like to leave them with?
Sure. I think what I would like to leave is that there's no one size fits all. As you've heard here tonight, all of our journeys are different. And so all of our responses and the way that we cope with things are going to be different. I could be coping well using one coping mechanism one day, and then the next day is totally different, and I got to change up and I got to readjust. So it's okay to change up. It's okay to readjust. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be upset, and it's okay to be happy. One of the things that I am steadily learning is that it is not okay just to settle. And so whether that's with pain, whether that's with unhappiness, whether that's with, feeling whatever feelings that you have, it's okay for you not to settle. It's okay for you to demand more. It's okay for you to treat your body better. It's okay for you to educate yourself more in order to get better. So again, it's not a one size fits all. Every day is a walk. Every day is a journey, and just keep going. Like no matter what, just keep going. You're not alone. There are people out there, resources out there. You're not in this by yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Eva. That was great. And I love the just okay to be happy, because I think sometimes when people hear or deal with health issues, they feel like they're supposed to respond a certain way. So I really love that you said it's okay to be happy. All right, Thomas, what would you leave us with today?
Well, our body gives us signals when things are not right. And what I recommend is that don't self-diagnose. A lot of times we want to say, well, I think it's this and I think it's that. And either we'll ignore it, or we don't go to the doctor to really find out what's going on. And that can be detrimental to you. So early detection for anything can save your life. So it's good to, when you discover that there's something that's not going right, go to your primary care doctor and share with it versus you trying to diagnose what you think is going on. Because, as they say, the life you save may be your own. So,
Wow. Thank you, Thomas. I love that. I love that. I thought I had a final quote for you, but I like that one. The life you save may be your own, and early detection is important. Awesome. Dr. Bliss, what would you leave us with?
There are so many chronic medical issues, from Alzheimer's to AIDS to epilepsy, coronary disease. There are so many chronic diseases, and so many people suffer in silence. And so I would just like everyone to come out of that silent place. And as far as Christians are concerned, they're going to their churches, they're going to their pastors, and they're asking for help. And so I would implore the churches to really put together counseling ministries that will be prepared to help people, because 1 in, 5 people have a mental health diagnosis, and then half of that is associated with a chronic illness. And so we need to be prepared. So I'm speaking over here on this side from mental health professionals and those who are in the helping professions. We've got a job to do. And so I'm asking everyone to start getting ready and prepared for all the mindsets, all the faith-based people, everybody, and those people especially who are afraid.
Yes. Awesome. That is amazing. Well, thank you all so much. I feel a bit more uplifted myself just listening to you all talk, and just reflecting on my own journey and walking through dealing with some of those issues of kind of wanting to hide and not wanting to share and not wanting to be open. So thank you all for being very transparent with the audience. Again, I'm sure someone was set free in some way this evening. Someone heard something that is going to make them pick up the phone, that's going to make them call a friend, that's going to make them do an internet search, that's going to have them reach out. And so I really thank you all for everything that you offered this evening. And so again, thank you all to the audience. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We still have a few minutes as we wrap up. But again, share this video. It'll be here available to you to rewatch. Tag friends if you think someone needed to hear a message that was here. Again, we put some contact information up for you. Please use those resources. And, again, there are a number of resources, including your church, your doctor's office, your insurance plan. There are community-based resources. There are hotline numbers. I mean, there's just a plethora of resources out there that you can tap into so that, again, you're not alone. You don't have to walk through this alone, and you don't have to suffer in silence. So again, my name is Nina Smith Bankhead, and I'm just really excited that we were able to share this hour with you all. So again, on behalf of Cross Culture 365 Ministries, as well as Community Social Justice Atlanta, just wanted to thank you all for joining us. And we want to encourage you to stay connected to both of these organizations at both of our pages. We periodically have webinars and other conversations and chats like this that may be addressing something that's important for you and your community. So again, thank you all so much. And we hope to see you again shortly. Have a great evening, everyone. Take care.
Take care.